Congratulations, you made it through session 1. Good job. You ready to start with session 1 assignments? Okay, great. Let's get started. As parents, we only do 2 things, really. We either do nurturing things or we do disciplinary things. Okay? Everything that you have ever done as a parent can be subsumed under one of 2 categories, either nurturing or discipline. I work with parents who are high in discipline and maybe not so good in the nurturing department, and they have kids who do well at school. They're very organized, but they also tend to have fairly low self-esteem and can even suffer with depression. I also work with parents who are really good with the nurturing piece, but maybe not so good with the discipline, and so they have kids who have very high self-esteem, but you can't get them to do anything. They perform poorly at school. They do few, if any, chores at home. So what we want to do is we want to develop a healthy balance between nurture and discipline. Now, in session 1, we are going to go kind of heavy with the nurturing business. And the reason being is if we charge in with a bunch of new parenting changes and implement a bunch of new disciplinary techniques overnight, it's going to fail. It's going to backfire. So you're not going to get any disciplinary techniques in session 1 assignments, and there's a good reason behind that. Now, I call them your assignments. You can call them whatever you want. These are your strategies. This is what you're going to begin to implement this week based on what you learned in session 1. And I would like for you to be as successful with this as possible, and how you can do that is to implement session 1 assignments for a period of 1 week before you begin to implement session 2 assignments. So, you spent 1 week learning session 1. You're going to spend this week, in week 2, you're going to be implementing session 1 assignments and studying session 2. Will you work the program this way with me? Great, thank you. The first thing that I would like for you to do in session 1 assignments is humble yourself just a little bit, and this evening, or whenever you see your child later today, I want you to say to him something along this line. I've discovered that I've made some mistakes in parenting you, and I apologize. But I've got an obligation to you to make some changes, and I'll explain each change to you as it comes, and I'll give you time to adjust to the change. Now, in this humble statement that you're giving your child, you are modeling 4 things that you would want your child to do. You're modeling that it's okay to admit one's mistakes. It's okay to make amends. It's okay to take responsibility for any mistakes that you may have made. And it's okay to accept change. Now, when you say this to your child, this humble statement, it doesn't matter how he responds. Okay? But he deserves to have a heads up that change is coming. Okay? So don't worry about how he responds. It's a non-issue. The important thing is you're letting him know that, you know what, I haven't been the greatest parent. Sorry about that, but I'm going to take responsibility for it, and the change begins now. The second thing that I want you to begin doing is I want you to ask your child at least one question that is fairly difficult for him or her to answer in 1 word. In other words, we want to ask our kids open-ended questions. A question like, how are you? Fine. That's not a good question to ask. Instead, try to draw some information from them, not to interrogate them, but to convey to your kids that I really am interested in what's going on in your life and how your day went. Okay? And again, just as with the humble statement, it doesn't matter how they respond. You know, they may say, when you ask them, for example, that movie that you watched the other night, what was the best part of the movie, do you think? And he may say, I don't know, or I don't remember, or who cares. It doesn't matter how they respond. The important thing is that you're asking and you're sending a very clear nonverbal message that, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing, and I'm interested in how your life is going. That sounds simple, and it may be something that you're already doing, but you have to do it every day, okay? No half measures. Now, the third thing that you're going to be doing in session 1 assignments is each and every evening before bedtime, you're going to tell your son that you love him, or you're going to tell your daughter that you love her. Now, I know that this sounds very simple. You may already be doing it. This is terribly important, okay? So, you say it very nonchalantly, just in passing, almost like you would mention the weather. So, let's say, for example, your daughter's name is Chris. And so she's in bed or wherever she's at, and you walk past her room and you say, "I love you, daughter." And then you just go on about your business, okay? Men, this is especially important for you because some of us never heard that from our fathers. And it's hard to give something that you never got, okay? So each evening, "I love you, son. I love you, daughter." Expect nothing in return. You say it very quickly and then you move on. The fourth and final assignment is for you to begin to develop the habit of weekly dinner time. Eat dinner together at least one evening each week, and it can be either be at home or you can go out to eat. Now, I know that you may already be doing this, and I know it's terribly simple. It's also terribly important. So tell your children that you expect them to be around for dinner at a specific time, and of course you won't be surprised if someone decides that they don't want to participate, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. You eat dinner at the table anyway, or you go out to eat anyway. It doesn't matter who actually shows up for dinner. The important thing is that you're developing the habit of weekly dinner time, and sooner or later the resistant kid is going to show up for a meal. So these are your Session 1 assignments, okay? And I know that it's very simple. I can promise you that Session 2 assignments are not going to be this simple, so just in case you're worried that this is going to be a soft approach, I can promise you that it's not. But again, we need to start out with the nurturing. We're going to go heavy with the nurturing this week to establish a bond and perhaps rebuild a broken bond. And then in week 2, we're going to weave in the disciplinary stuff. So you have the toughest job in the world, you as the parent, because you're helping with the development of a human being, your child. And humans are the most complicated and complex entities on earth, literally. They're more complicated than computers. After all, humans were the ones that created computers. They're more complicated than spacecraft. Humans created spacecraft. And humans are especially complicated when they're teenagers. So this week, when you begin to doubt yourself, or feel discouraged, or feel overwhelmed, or begin to wonder if any of this stuff is going to work, you remind yourself that this is not an easy job for anyone. And you also remind yourself that it's going to take a little time to get the problems turned around. If your child, for example, is 15 years old, it's taken 15 years for the problems to get to this point. So it's going to take a few weeks to get them turned around. Be patient. Just do one session at a time. Implement Session 1 assignments this week and begin to study Session 2. And I'll see you in Session 2. Thank you.